You have tried to organize your life before. You know exactly what happened. You spent an entire Saturday watching productivity videos, downloaded 3 apps, bought a planner, color-coded your week, wrote a morning routine, wrote an evening routine, set 17 alarms, and by Wednesday you were back to eating cereal over the sink at 11 a.m., wondering where the motivation went. And the worst part was not the failure. The worst part was that it felt familiar. Because this was not the first time. It was the 4th, maybe the 7th. Maybe you have lost count. And every single time, the collapse happened the same way. You started with too much energy, built something too complicated, and watched it fall apart under the weight of your own ambition. So you stopped trusting yourself. You stopped believing that you are the kind of person who can be organized, who can maintain a system, who can keep anything going longer than a week. But what if the problem was never you? What if the problem was that every system you have ever tried was designed for a version of your life that does not exist? A version where you have unlimited willpower, 0 interruptions, no emotional days, and 8 hours of free time to plan, review, and optimize your perfect schedule. That version of you does not exist. It never did. And no system built for that version will ever survive contact with reality. This video is going to show you something different. I am going to give you a single rule, one principle, that can reorganize your entire life in less than 24 hours. It does not require discipline. It does not require motivation. It does not require you to become someone you are not. It requires you to accept who you actually are and build around that person. And the reason I know this works is because I was exactly where you are. I was the person with 14 abandoned planners and 3 expired productivity app subscriptions and a notes app full of half-finished to-do lists from 2019. I tried every system out there, every framework, every method, every guru's morning routine. None of them lasted, until I understood a principle so simple that I almost dismissed it the first time I heard it. Almost, but I did not. And within one day, one single focused day, my life looked different. Not because I became a different person, because I finally stopped fighting who I already was. Before we go deeper, if you are someone who takes this kind of content seriously, if you are actually trying to build a better version of your life, instead of just watching videos about it, subscribe. This channel exists for people who want real systems, not motivation speeches. Every video here is built to give you something you can use immediately. Hit subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. Now, here is what most people get wrong about organizing your life. They think organization is about adding things. More habits, more tools, more routines, more tracking, more apps, more widgets, more structure. And that instinct makes sense. When your life feels chaotic, the natural response is to impose order, to add systems on top of the mess. But here is the problem nobody talks about. Research in cognitive psychology has shown that the average adult makes roughly 35,000 conscious decisions every single day. 35,000. And every single one of those decisions costs something. It costs a small amount of mental energy, and your supply of that energy is not infinite, it depletes. By the time you have decided what to eat for breakfast, which emails to answer first, whether to respond to that text now or later, which task to start with, which meeting to prepare for, what to wear, whether to go to the gym before or after work, you have already spent a significant portion of your cognitive budget before noon. And when that budget runs out, you do not make better decisions. You make easier ones, you default, you procrastinate, you scroll. You choose the path of least resistance because your brain literally does not have the fuel left to do otherwise. This is not opinion. This is measurable. A systematic review published in Health Psychology Review in 2025 examined 82 studies on decision fatigue across multiple professional domains. The findings showed that even in highly structured environments like hospitals, where protocols and guidelines exist specifically to prevent judgment errors, 45% of the studies found significant evidence of decision fatigue affecting diagnostic decisions, prescribing patterns, and treatment choices. If decision fatigue can degrade judgment in environments specifically designed to prevent it, imagine what it does in your unstructured, unprotected daily life. Your kitchen, your inbox, your commute, your evenings. Every moment where there is no protocol, no guideline, no structure telling you what to do next. In those moments, you are making hundreds of micro decisions per hour with a depleting resource, and you wonder why you feel exhausted by 3 p.m. even though you did not do anything physically demanding. This is why every complex organizational system you have ever tried has collapsed. Not because you are lazy, not because you lack discipline, because the system itself was consuming the very resource it was supposed to protect. Your organizational method was eating your willpower for breakfast and leaving nothing for the actual work. So the question is not, how do I add more structure? The question is, how do I remove enough friction that the structure sustains itself? And to answer that question, I spent years studying different approaches to life organization. Not the aesthetic ones you see on TikTok with the color-coded planners and the washi tape. The ones that actually survive contact with a real human life. I tested them. I lived inside them. Some for weeks, some for months. And what I found surprised me. Because the approach that won, the one that actually transformed my life, was not the most sophisticated one. It was the simplest. Let me walk you through the 3 approaches I tested so you can understand why most of them fail and why one of them does not. The first approach is what I call the total system. This is the one most people try first because it feels the most productive. The total system says you need a morning routine, an evening routine, a weekly review, a monthly review, a project tracker, a habit tracker, a journal, a goal board, a calendar, a task manager, and ideally, an accountability partner. Everything is connected. Everything feeds into everything else. You wake up at 5 a.m., you meditate, you journal, you exercise, you eat clean, you plan your day, you review your goals, and you do this every single day without exception. Does it work? In theory, absolutely. In practice, it works for about 11 days, because the total system requires something called a zero-friction environment. That means nothing unexpected can happen. No bad sleep, no sick days, no emotional conversations at midnight that leave you drained the next morning, no deadlines that force you to skip your precious review session, no kids waking up at 3 a.m., no internet outage that breaks your digital planner sync. The total system works perfectly in a vacuum, and your life is not a vacuum. Your life is messy, unpredictable, and full of variables that no spreadsheet can control. And here is the most dangerous part. When the total system breaks, and it always breaks, it does not degrade gracefully, it collapses entirely. Because every piece depends on every other piece. Miss the morning routine and the daily plan does not get written. Miss the daily plan and the tasks pile up. Miss the weekly review and you lose track of what matters. Within 3 days of one disruption, the entire architecture is rubble. And then comes the worst part. The shame. You do not just feel disorganized, you feel like a failure. Because you built this beautiful system and you could not maintain it, which must mean something is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. Something was wrong with the system. The total system scores high on ambition and low on survivability. It is the organizational equivalent of building a skyscraper on sand. Impressive to look at, impossible to live in. The second approach is the minimalist method. This is the opposite of the total system. The minimalist method says you need almost nothing. One notebook, one pen. Write 3 things you want to accomplish today. Do them, that is it. No apps, no trackers, no routines, no reviews. Just 3 things, every morning, written by hand. Does it work? For simple lives, yes. If you are a student with 4 classes and no job, 3 daily tasks might cover everything. If you are a freelancer with 1 client, sure. But for anyone with a real degree of complexity, the minimalist method fails for a different reason. It has no capacity for depth. 3 tasks cannot capture the nuance of a life with a full-time job, side projects, family obligations, health goals, financial targets, social commitments, and personal development. What happens is you end up choosing the same 3 tasks every day because they are the most urgent, while everything else slowly rots in the background. Your apartment gets messier, your inbox grows, your relationships drift, your health slides. Because the minimalist method gave you clarity on the immediate, but blindness on everything else. It does not fail dramatically like the total system, it fails quietly. You do not even realize things are falling apart until you look up 6 months later and wonder how everything got so bad. The minimalist method scores high on simplicity but low on coverage. It is like trying to light a stadium with a single candle. The flame is real. The illumination is not enough. The third approach is the one that actually works, and I call it the 2x rule. Before I explain it, I want to mention something that connects directly to what we are building here. One of the reasons most people cannot sustain any organizational system is not actually about the system. It is about what is happening underneath. It is the mental noise, the anxiety that starts the moment you open your eyes, the racing thoughts at 3 a.m., the inability to sit still and think clearly for even 5 minutes. If your mind is in chaos, no planner on earth will fix your life. You will just be organizing chaos into a prettier shape. That is exactly why I created the K.M.A method. 5 minutes a day. That is all it takes. It is a mental control system designed specifically for people who feel like their brain never shuts off. People who have tried meditation and felt like it was not built for them. People who need something structured, practical, and ruthlessly simple. And the results I have seen, both in my own life and from people who have used it, are the reason I keep bringing it up. It is not a product I am selling to make money. It is the foundation that makes everything else in this video actually stick. If you want to check it out, point your camera at the QR code on screen right now or use the link in the description. 5 minutes a day for mental control and inner calm. Now let me show you how the 2x rule actually works and why it changes everything. The 2x rule is built on one principle. Whatever your brain thinks it needs, give it twice the space and half the content. Let me say that again because it sounds simple, but it is the most counterintuitive thing you will ever apply to your life. Whatever your brain thinks it needs, give it twice the space and half the content. Here is what that means in practice. If you think you can fit 5 tasks into your morning, schedule 2. If you think a meeting will take 30 minutes, block 60. If you think you need 1 hour to clean your apartment, set aside 2. If you think you can handle 3 major goals this month, pick 1.5. Round down. Always round down. Why? Because your brain is the worst estimator on the planet. Decades of research in behavioral psychology have confirmed a phenomenon called the planning fallacy. First identified by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, the planning fallacy is our consistent, almost universal tendency to underestimate the time, energy, and resources needed to complete a task, even when we have direct experience with similar tasks taking longer than expected. We do not learn from past failures. We keep predicting best-case scenarios, every single time. The construction industry has a term for this. They call it Hofstadter's law. It always takes longer than you expect, even when you take into account Hofstadter's law. That recursive joke exists because the pattern is so deeply embedded in human cognition that even knowing about it does not fix it. The only thing that fixes it is building the correction into the structure itself. That is what the 2x rule does. It is Hofstadter's law turned into an operating principle. And what happens when you consistently underestimate is that you consistently run out of time, which means you consistently feel behind, which means you consistently feel anxious, which means you consistently burn out, which means you consistently abandon the system. The 2x rule breaks that cycle by building margin into everything. Not as a luxury, as a structural requirement. The margin is not wasted space. It is the breathing room that keeps the system alive. Let me show you what a day looks like under the 2x rule, step by step, so you can see exactly how to implement this today. Not next Monday, not when you feel ready. Today. Step 1. The brain dump. Take a piece of paper or open a blank document. Set a timer for 15 minutes. Write down every single thing that is on your mind. Every task, every worry, every obligation, every half-finished project, every promise you made, every appointment you are dreading, everything you keep meaning to do but never start. Do not organize it. Do not prioritize it, do not judge it, just get it out of your head and onto the surface. This is not journaling, this is cognitive offloading. Research has shown that the act of writing information down, transferring it from internal memory to external storage, measurably reduces cognitive load and frees up working memory for actual performance. Your brain is not designed to store and process simultaneously. When you try to remember everything and think at the same time, both functions degrade. The brain dump separates storage from processing. It gives your mind permission to stop holding and start thinking. I want you to understand why this matters at a neurological level. Your working memory, the part of your brain that holds information for active processing, has a finite capacity. Research consistently shows that most people can hold roughly 4 to 7 items in working memory at any given time. That is it. 4 to 7. And every open loop in your life, every unsent email, every unscheduled appointment, every unfinished conversation, every unmade decision, occupies one of those slots. When all 7 slots are full of unresolved items, there is zero capacity left for creative thought, strategic planning, or focused work. You become purely reactive, a machine that responds to the loudest input, not the most important one. The brain dump empties those slots. It takes every open loop and externalizes it. And the moment you do that, you feel a physical shift, like setting down a heavy object you did not realize you were carrying. That shift is not placebo. It is measurable changes in cognitive load. Do not skip this step. I know it feels unnecessary. I know you think you already know what is on your mind. You do not. Every time I do a brain dump, things come out that I did not consciously know were weighing on me. A dentist appointment I forgot to schedule, a friend I said I would call 3 weeks ago, a bill I was not sure if I paid, a project I committed to that I no longer want to do. These things sit in your subconscious and drain energy like background apps on your phone. You do not see them, but they are killing your battery. Get them out, all of them. Step 2, the category sort. Look at your brain dump. Every single item on that list falls into one of 4 categories, not 5, not 10, not a color-coded system with subcategories and tags. 4. Category 1, eliminate. These are things that should not be on your list at all. Commitments you made out of guilt, goals that belong to a version of you that no longer exists, tasks that have been on your list for 6 months and clearly are never going to happen, projects that sound good in theory but drain you in practice, social obligations that make you feel worse, not better. Be ruthless here. The 2X rule says half the content. This is where the cutting happens, and I will tell you something that took me years to learn. Eliminating a task you were never going to do anyway does not make you a quitter. It makes you honest. It makes you strategic. It frees up the psychological weight of carrying something you were pretending to do but never actually doing. That weight is real, and losing it feels like putting down a backpack full of rocks you forgot you were carrying. Here is a practical way to identify what to eliminate. Ask yourself one question about every item. If this disappeared from my list overnight and nobody noticed, would I put it back? If the answer is no, eliminate it. Do not negotiate. Do not save it for later. Do not create a maybe list. The maybe list is where tasks go to die slowly while still consuming your mental energy. Kill them cleanly. Let them go. Category 2, delegate or automate. These are things that need to happen but do not need to happen by you. Bills that can be set to autopay. Groceries that can be delivered, emails that can be templated, appointments that can be scheduled with an online booking system instead of a back-and-forth text chain, tasks at work that a colleague could handle if you asked, errands that could be batched into one trip instead of 5 separate ones. Most people resist delegation because it feels lazy. It is not lazy. It is intelligent. Every task you remove from your personal execution list is cognitive energy preserved for the tasks that actually require your full brain. You are not being irresponsible. You are being strategic about where your limited daily processing power goes. I want to give you a specific number here. Go through your brain dump and count how many items could theoretically be automated or delegated. For most people, the number is between 30 and 40% of the entire list. Nearly half of what you are carrying does not require your personal attention. It requires your permission to let go. That distinction is important. You are not unable to delegate. You are unwilling. And that unwillingness is costing you the very resource you need most. Category 3, schedule. These are things that need to happen and need to happen by you, but they do not need to happen today. The 2X rule says give it twice the space. So if you have 12 things in this category, you are not cramming them into this week. You are spreading them across the next 2 weeks, with buffer days, with margins, with the understanding that unexpected things will happen and your schedule needs to absorb them without breaking. Here is the key. When you schedule under the 2X rule, you never fill more than 50% of any given day with planned tasks. The other 50% is margin, and that margin is not lazy time. That margin is reality time. It is where the unexpected phone call goes, where the meeting that ran long gets absorbed, where the headache that kills your focus gets accommodated, where the brilliant idea that hits you at 2 p.m. gets explored instead of ignored because you were too packed to think. The 50% rule sounds extreme. It is not. It is the first honest schedule you will ever build, because every other schedule you have ever built was a fantasy. It was what you hoped would happen, not what could actually happen, given the realities of being a human being with energy fluctuations and emotions and a body that sometimes says no. Category 4, do now. These are the things that need to happen today. Under the 2X rule, this list should never have more than 3 items. 3, not 5, not 7, not everything that is urgent. 3. And here is why. If you have 3 things to do and you finish all 3, you feel accomplished. You feel like you won the day. That feeling is not trivial. That feeling is the fuel for tomorrow. It is the reason you will do this again, because you ended today feeling competent, capable, in control. And that emotional momentum is worth more than any productivity hack in existence. But if you have 7 things to do and you finish 5, you feel like you failed, even though 5 is objectively more than 3. Because the human brain does not evaluate productivity in absolute terms, it evaluates in terms of completion rate. 5 out of 7 feels like failure. 3 out of 3 feels like victory. The 2x rule protects you from the tyranny of the incomplete list. It ensures that your daily experience of being alive is not one of perpetual deficit. Step 3. The environment reset. This is where the 2x rule moves from your schedule into your physical space. And this is where most organizational systems completely ignore what might be the most important factor of all. Research at Princeton University found that visual clutter competes for neural representation in your brain. That means every object in your visual field that is not relevant to what you are doing is actively pulling processing power away from the task at hand. Your brain cannot ignore clutter. It processes it constantly, even when you think you are focused. The mess on your desk is not neutral. It is actively degrading your cognitive performance. And the relationship between physical environment and behavior is not subtle. Researchers in environmental psychology have consistently shown that workspace design shapes behavior more reliably than willpower. Your surroundings are not a backdrop to your life. They are an active participant in your performance. So the environment reset is simple. Pick the one room where you spend the most time. For most people, this is the bedroom or the home office. Set a timer for 90 minutes and apply the 2x rule to physical space. Whatever amount of stuff your brain thinks belongs in that room, cut it in half. Here is how. Start with surfaces. Clear every single surface completely. The desk, the nightstand, the dresser, the shelf. Take everything off. Put it on the floor or the bed. Then put back only the things you use at least once a week. Everything else gets boxed, donated, or trashed. Do not think about it too long. If you have to debate whether you need something, you do not need it. The debate itself is the evidence. Then do your digital environment. Open your phone. Delete every app you have not used in 30 days. Turn off every notification except calls and messages from real humans. Set your home screen to one page. 1. Every app you need is accessible through search. You do not need it staring at you, because every icon on your home screen is a tiny decision waiting to hijack your attention. Research tracking screen-based attention found that the average human can now focus on a single screen for roughly 47 seconds before switching. 47 seconds. That number was 2.5 minutes in 2004. Your phone is not a tool. It is a decision factory that manufactures thousands of micro-choices every day. By reducing what it shows you, you reduce the decisions it generates. And every decision you eliminate is energy preserved for something real. Then do your closet. And I know this sounds unrelated to productivity, but it is not. Getting dressed in the morning is one of the first decision chains of your day. If your closet is full of clothes you do not wear, clothes that do not fit, clothes from 3 style eras ago, every morning starts with a low-level decision tax. You stand there scanning, evaluating, rejecting, choosing. And that entire process can be eliminated. Take everything out. Put back only the clothes you would wear tomorrow if tomorrow was a normal day. Create a capsule wardrobe even if you do not call it that. 5 to 7 outfits that all work. Remove the rest. Morning decisions drop to near zero. Cognitive energy preserved for something that actually matters. Step 4. The anchor system. This is the final piece, and this is where the 2x rule becomes a permanent operating system instead of a one-time cleanup. Every sustainable organizational system in history, from military operations to monastery schedules to surgical theaters, shares one characteristic: anchors. Anchors are fixed points in your day that do not move, do not negotiate, and do not require decisions. They are automatic. They happen at the same time, in the same way, every single day, regardless of mood, energy, or circumstance. Under the 2x rule, you need exactly 2 anchors, not 5. Not an entire routine. 2, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. The morning anchor is whatever happens in the first 15 minutes after you wake up. Not the first hour, not a 90-minute morning routine. 15 minutes. And within those 15 minutes, you do exactly the same thing every single day. For me, it is making the bed, drinking a glass of water, and reviewing my 3 tasks for the day that I wrote the night before. That is it. It takes 9 minutes. And the reason it works is because it eliminates the most dangerous moment of the day, the gap between waking up and having direction. That gap is where your phone hijacks you, where Instagram grabs you, where the news cycle pulls you into anxiety before you have even decided what your day is about. The morning anchor closes that gap. It gives you a default behavior that does not require willpower because it is automatic. You do not decide to do it, you just do it. The way you do not decide to brush your teeth, it just happens. And there is something specific about making the bed that I want to mention because it connects directly to the 2x rule philosophy. Making the bed is the smallest possible completed task. It takes under 2 minutes, but it creates a visual anchor of order. When you walk back into your room later that day, you see a made bed, and your brain registers one completed thing, one small proof that you are the kind of person who finishes what they start. That is not a motivational cliche. That is neuroscience. Your brain uses environmental cues to construct your self-image in real time. A made bed is a cue that says capable. An unmade bed is a cue that says chaotic. And those cues accumulate throughout the day, either building or eroding the identity of someone who has their life together. The evening anchor is whatever happens in the last 15 minutes before you sleep. For me, it is writing tomorrow's 3 tasks, setting my clothes out, and plugging my phone in across the room, not next to my bed. Again, 9 minutes. And the reason this one matters is because it closes the loop. It means you go to sleep knowing what tomorrow looks like, and that knowledge, that certainty, reduces the nighttime anxiety that keeps millions of people lying awake at 3 a.m., running mental simulations of everything they need to do. You have already decided. It is written down. Your brain can release it. The evening anchor gives your unconscious mind permission to rest instead of plan. 2 anchors, 30 minutes total. No willpower required after the first week because by then they are habits. And everything else in your life organizes around those 2 fixed points, like planets around a gravitational center. Now here is the part that most people do not expect. When you compare these 3 approaches side by side, the total system versus the minimalist method versus the 2x rule, the 2x rule does not win because it is the most organized. It wins because it is the most honest. The total system assumes you are a machine. The minimalist method assumes your life is simple. The 2x rule assumes you are a real person with real limitations, real emotions, real unpredictability, and a real need to feel accomplished at the end of the day. It does not fight your nature, it works with your nature. It does not demand perfection, it demands honesty. And honesty, it turns out, is the most sustainable foundation you can build on. The total system will give you an incredible first week and a devastating second week. The minimalist method will give you a gentle decline you barely notice until the damage is done. The 2x rule will give you a boring first week, because cutting things in half feels like giving up, followed by a second week where you realize you are actually doing the things you planned. Then a third week where you realize you have not abandoned the system. Then a month where people start asking what changed. Then 3 months where you barely recognize the person who used to eat cereal over the sink at 11 a.m. The 2x rule wins not because it is exciting, it wins because it survives. It survives bad days, it survives sick days, it survives breakups and deadlines and family emergencies and weeks where everything goes wrong. Because there is margin built into every layer, there is space for reality. And reality, as it turns out, is the one variable that no other system accounts for. Let me walk you through some specific things that will go wrong when you implement this, because I would rather you hear them from me now than discover them alone and think it means the system is broken. The first thing that will go wrong is you will feel guilty about doing less. 3 tasks will feel lazy. 50% scheduling will feel irresponsible. Cutting your wardrobe in half will feel wasteful. Eliminating goals will feel like quitting. This guilt is real, and it is predictable, and it is wrong. The guilt comes from a culture that equates busyness with value. A culture that trained you to believe that if you are not overwhelmed, you are not trying hard enough. That belief is killing your productivity, because overwhelm does not produce results. It produces paralysis, and paralysis produces shame, and shame produces more overwhelm. The 2x rule breaks that cycle by making less feel like enough, not because you are settling, because you are finally being realistic. The second thing that will go wrong is someone will judge you. A coworker will notice you leave on time. A friend will comment that you seem different. A family member will ask why you are not as busy as you used to be, and you will be tempted to justify yourself, to explain the system, to prove that you are still productive. Do not do that. Do not explain yourself to people who are still trapped in the busyness cycle. Your results will speak louder than any explanation. And in 3 months, those same people will be asking you how you did it. The third thing that will go wrong is you will want to add more. The system will work. You will feel in control. And the first thing your brain does when it feels in control is try to take on more. It says, see, I have margin now. Let me fill it. This is a trap. The margin is not leftover space waiting to be used. The margin is the system. It is the load-bearing wall. It is the foundation. The moment you fill the margin, you are back to the old pattern. You are back to 100% capacity, back to zero tolerance for surprise, back to collapse by Wednesday. Protect the margin the way you would protect oxygen on a spaceship, because that is exactly what it is. It is the thing that keeps everything alive. Let me tell you what happens when you actually maintain this for 60 days, because I think the long-term results are more compelling than the first week transformation. In the first week, your physical space gets cleaner. Your phone has fewer distractions. Your morning has a pattern. Your evening has a pattern. You feel slightly more in control, but it does not feel dramatic. It feels quiet, and that quietness will make you nervous, because you are used to chaos. You are used to the adrenaline of urgency, the dopamine hit of cramming, the identity of being someone who has so much going on. Quiet competence feels strange at first. Sit with it. That strangeness is what growth feels like when it is not being performed for an audience. In the second week, you start noticing something strange. You have time, not a lot, but pockets. 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Spaces in your day that used to be consumed by task switching, decision-making, and anxiety that no longer exist because you eliminated the decisions that caused them. And in those pockets, something interesting happens. You start thinking, not the frantic, reactive thinking that characterizes most people's mental lives. Actual thinking, reflective thinking, strategic thinking. You start asking yourself questions you have not asked in months. Questions like, what do I actually want? What am I doing that does not matter? What have I been avoiding that I know matters deeply? In the third week, you stop thinking about the system. It runs itself. The morning anchor is automatic. The evening anchor is automatic. The 3-task limit does not require discipline anymore because your brain has adjusted its expectations. You no longer expect to do 15 things in a day. 3 feels right, and because 3 feels right, you actually do them, consistently, without the motivational roller coaster that used to define your weeks. By the end of the first month, the compound effect begins. And this is where it gets genuinely transformative, because when you do 3 things every day for 30 days, you have done 90 things. Not 90 things you planned and half abandoned. 90 things you planned and completed. 90 small victories. 90 deposits in your self-trust account. And self-trust, I need you to understand this, is the actual currency of productivity. It is not willpower. It is not motivation. It is the deep, quiet belief that when you say you will do something, you will do it. That belief has been eroded for years by overpromising and under-delivering to yourself. Every abandoned planner was a broken promise to yourself. Every unfinished system was proof that you could not be trusted with your own commitments. The 2X rule rebuilds that trust one completed day at a time. It is not fast. It is not dramatic, but it is real. And once that trust is rebuilt, everything changes because you start making bigger promises to yourself, not because someone motivated you, because you have evidence that you keep them. By the second month, people notice, not because you told them about your system, because your behavior changed. You respond to emails faster because your inbox is no longer a source of dread. You meet deadlines without panic because your schedule has margin built in. You show up to conversations more present because your brain is not running 17 background processes. You sleep better because the evening anchor clears the runway. You exercise more consistently because you stopped scheduling it alongside 6 other things and started scheduling it as one of your 3. You eat better because meal decisions got simplified along with everything else. You are calmer. And the calm is not a personality change. It is a structural change. You did not become more zen. You removed the conditions that made chaos inevitable. Something I want you to understand before we close this out. Everything I have talked about today, the brain dump, the category sort, the environment reset, the anchor system, all of it works on the surface level. It reorganizes your tasks and your space and your schedule, but the reason it actually transforms your life is because of what it does underneath. It gives you back your attention, and attention is the most valuable resource you have. More valuable than time, more valuable than money, more valuable than talent. Because without attention, time is just hours passing. Money is just numbers. Talent is just potential. The 2X rule is, at its core, an attention protection system. It guards your focus by removing the thousands of micro-decisions that fragment it every day. It creates an environment where deep thought is possible, not because you forced yourself to focus, but because you eliminated the things that were stealing focus without your permission. And that is why this video is called How to Organize Your Life in One Day. Not because one day fixes everything, but because one day is enough to build the structure, one day to brain dump, one day to sort and eliminate, one day to reset your environment, one day to set your 2 anchors. After that, the system maintains itself. It runs on 30 minutes a day, 15 in the morning, 15 at night. And in between, you live. You actually live, instead of managing a system that was supposed to help you live, but ended up becoming the thing you spent all your time maintaining. Now, I said at the beginning that this video would change how you think about organization. And I want to leave you with one more thing that goes even deeper than systems and schedules. The K.M.A. method. If this video gave you a structure for your external life, the K.M.A. method gives you a structure for your internal life. 5 minutes a day, not 30. Not an hour of meditation you will never actually do. 5 minutes of structured mental control that rewires how your brain handles stress, anxiety, and the constant noise that makes every day feel heavier than it needs to be. I use it every single morning inside my 15-minute anchor. It is the reason the anchor works. It is the reason the calm stays. Because you can organize your desk and your closet and your schedule perfectly, and if your mind is still in chaos, you will sabotage it all within a week. The K.M.A. method prevents that sabotage at the source. Point your camera at the QR code on screen right now or tap the link in the description. Try it for 1 week. If it does not change how your mornings feel, you have lost nothing but 35 minutes total. But if it does, and I believe it will, you will understand why I put it at the center of everything I teach. One more thing, I want to hear from you. In the comments, tell me which category from the brain dump is the hardest for you. Is it eliminate, because you struggle to let go of commitments? Is it delegate, because you feel like no one can do it as well as you? Is it schedule, because you always overload your days? Or is it do now, because choosing only 3 things feels impossible? Tell me, because when you name the thing that is hardest for you, you take the first step toward fixing it. And when other people read your comment, they realize they are not the only ones struggling with the same thing. That is how this channel works. We build in silence, but we build together. Share this video with one person who needs it. Not someone who is already organized, someone who is drowning, someone who has tried everything and thinks the problem is them. Show them it is not. Subscribe if you have not. I will see you in the next one.